I'm live. Hello, Joe and Metal Music. I hope you guys are still here. Do you know, Joe, I've been talking to myself for the last, 5 minutes? I forgot to hit the live. Oy, I'm just wiped out. I was like, how come nobody's commenting? Is nobody here? And then I see nobody's here now. But yeah, I was talking to myself for the first 5 minutes. I can't even believe that. So, hello, Joe, and hello, Metal Music. I don't know if you guys were here. Hey, did you hear me, Joe? Yeah, I was talking to. I was like, "How you doing?" And there's no comments coming. I'm like, "How you doing?" And then I looked and it said, "What does it say? Go live." And I was like, "Oh no." I have just been so busy helping my sister. And then for Mother's Day, I went to my mom's and we were out. She loves being outside. We were outside for the whole day Sunday and we had the Mother's Day brunch. And then Monday, we were out all morning. And I'll tell you that story in a little bit. But my allergies were killing me. Plus, I was in pain from head to toe. Everything hurt from working at the shop, and I worked at the shop yesterday. I was just like, what can I do? I'm putting the patches on. So last night I did it all. I took a leave, I put the icy hot on, and I also took a Epsom salt bath, which, you know, I think that that's what did it. And then I went to bed early and I slept in late. I'm still got a little brain fog, obviously, because I wouldn't have been talking to myself for 5 minutes. Um, and so here I am. So how you doing, Joe? How you doing? How you doing, Metal Music? If you're still here, how you doing? Today we're gonna talk about. I'm going to my YouTube. Today we're gonna talk about me as an ACA, adult child of alcoholics, about my teenage years. And again, just like last week, we're not blaming anybody. We're not blaming our parents. We're just talking about things that maybe we did and we didn't understand why we did. Oh, no, Joe. Is it the allergies or is it like a flu or something like that? Because those allergies, when I went to my mom's house and we were outside all day, number one, I didn't have my mask on, which was stupid. And number two, I forgot to bring my daytime allergy meds. And I was like, what is wrong with me? So, yeah. So I totally understand that. And then a cold. Not only was I sick, I was in extreme pain. So, honest to goodness, you can sneeze, Joe. I don't mind. I think it's a child flu. Yeah, yeah. Those kids, being around those kids, they're so much fun, but yeah. I could not function yesterday. After I left the shop, like she had me clean some shelves and put some stuff together, which is my forte, putting things together. I'm really good at it and I just enjoy it. It's my zen. And just dragging myself home, barely walking. And the first thing I did was jumped into the tub with the Epsom salts. Epsom salts. Now, I don't normally I don't think I've ever taken an Epsom salt bath. So my husband has called it the old lady bath. So I will probably be taking more of those more frequently, old lady baths. And I just, it helped so much. I mean, I woke up, I feel I'm not 100%. It's going to take, I'm not,
this video is only for my fellow Michigan residents.
I'm not helping her today. Wednesday, I take off for my lives, and Thursday and Friday, my husband's home, so I don't work at the shop. The first week I did, and he's like, I haven't seen you for 2 days, and it gives me a reason to not be there, is because he's home. So, and I like that. So I get these days off, and then I help her again on Saturday. We have all the floors done, the walls are done. We're just putting furniture together and stuff. But man, that plus allergies, Joe, I don't know how you function. I don't know. You probably need that. I do need the break. Absolutely, I need the break. Just I didn't even want to feed the cats. He fed the cats for me. Then he made dinner, or we just microwaved our dinner. And then I fed my kitty mama outside. I fed her yesterday too. I fed her the day before too, before I went to my mom's. Sunday, she got fed every day. So they're supposed to be coming this week to bring the trap so we can trap her and get the kittens. So let me see. What I was gonna do was I was gonna open my page so I could be on my YouTube, and this other thing popped up. Close. All these weird pop-up things. I don't go on YouTube very often. So today we're going to talk about my teenage years as an adult child of alcoholics. And this is all hindsight. Like I said, we're not blaming anybody. They didn't know, we didn't know, nobody knew. I'm 55, so when I was a teenager, it was the 80s. I was born in 69. So I was 10 in 79. I was 20 in 89. So late 70s, early 80s were my school years. But 80s definitely was my high school. And I loved the 80s. Loved them. Here we are. Loved them. Anybody else here with me on that? Love the 80s thing. Here we are. So that's when I was a teenager. I graduated in 87. And I wasn't a perfect teenager. I got good grades, but I was lazy. I made it through on A's and B's when I could have probably been an A student. Excuse me. But my parents, they weren't those crazy people who come to every function and go to every, I think they had to go to the PTAs. But back then, did they have to go to the PTAs? I don't think they did. Or those, those evaluations and stuff. They didn't do any of that stuff. They were involved in their own stuff, basically. And they were young when they had me. But in the 80s, partying was what you did. And so my parents did that as well. Alcohol. Vision streetwear swag, indeed a great era. Tony Hawk is old now, so he's taking the meds we are now taking, right? I know, but it was just such a great time to be alive, wasn't it? My mom never had time to go to PTA. She would have just no time. Yeah. I don't think back then it was like now if you don't go, they I don't know, do they ticket you or fine you? Or I don't know. If you don't go now, you get in big trouble, I guess. So it wasn't like that back then. And smoking wasn't causing cancer, and alcohol was fine when you were pregnant. Coffee you could drink whenever. And, all the things that are bad now were fine back then. So, yeah, my dad, he basically drank daily, all day, every day, but he worked a lot. He was, how I worked in a steel mill? He worked in a steel mill as a mechanic. And I don't think he was prouder than when I became an electrician at a steel mill, which was, weird. But yeah, he was a mechanic at a steel mill. So he worked all the doubles and the midnights and the swing shift. And so we didn't see him very much. But when he was home, he drank. And at that time in the 80s, he probably drank at work too, because back then the rules were a lot more lenient than they are today. My mom, she never said she was, but she basically had symptoms of depression back then. And she would mostly, she would clean the house and then watch her shows and make dinner and watch more shows. And so it was like we were unattended most of the time. So, 'cause she had her own stuff going on. And like I said, they were young when they got married, really young, which wasn't uncommon back then either. So that's all the stuff that was going on. And then once I got into high school, I had a base group of friends. I had a base group of friends. We weren't popular. We weren't not popular. We were like the middle group. And we just we were friends. I mean, high school friends. I don't really see any of them too much now. But the one thing I realized is that when I was younger, now I don't know about guys, but we had sleepovers. Girls had sleepovers. Anybody here sleepovers? Yes, yes. So I never had a sleepover at my house. Never. I would always go to sleepovers and I would stay at other people's houses, but nobody would ever come to my house. I had one friend that was allowed to come to my house, and that was it. And so what I realize now is that my house was the house with the alcoholic in it. So he didn't want people over. He didn't want people to see what was going on. And there was nothing I was not molested, nothing like that. Nothing like that. My dad was a good guy. My mom is a great woman, and they just at that time in their lives, that's who they were. And that's how he dealt with, I believe my dad, that's how he dealt with anxiety. So my mom had depression and my dad had anxiety. Undiagnosed totally. I'm diagnosing them myself. But so by the time I got into high school, like I told you, I was just sliding by on grades. I really wasn't doing my homework like I should have been. I wasn't studying like I should have been because it wasn't, they wanted me to get good grades, but it wasn't like, okay, is your homework done? Not like it is now. It wasn't like that. Is your homework done? Do you need help at school? None of that. None of that. It was come home, play, eat dinner, go to bed, excuse me. So one thing, like I said, when I look back, I never had friends over. I had one, she's still my best friend to this day too, in Monroe. Yeah. And so I didn't realize at the time why that was. So I was always the girl that went to other people's houses, which was fine with me because my house was kind of boring. And like I said, dad drank, mom was depressed. We kind of raised ourselves quite a bit. And and of course, undiagnosed, because at that time, mental health was not to be talked about. I don't recall sleepovers back in the day, but I do recall falling asleep on the windshield after hours and hours of bike riding. On the windshield. The windshield of a car? Hey, Jen, how are you doing? I don't think guys did sleepovers like girls did, because that was the era of the slumber party metal music. That was the era, the 80s was the era of the slumber party. How you doing, Jen? Yeah, and that's what we did. We played outside. We used to rake leaves into, I mean, I had a decent childhood. I'm not saying it was bad. I went to a lot of sleepovers. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, bad day. Sorry about that, Jen. We were talking earlier about our physical health, and I was telling everybody that last night, I mean, I was at my wit's end. I was in so much pain. I took a bath with the Epsom salts in it for the very first time. Never done that before. And man, I feel I'm not perfect, but I can at least walk today. So is it mental health bad day, or is it physical health bad day? Yeah, so yeah, I went to a lot of sleepovers. Loved them. I got out of my boring house with my annoying little sisters and brother, and I loved them. but I never realized that I never had any of those. Back in the day, cars had heavier windshields so you could fall asleep on the windshield after climbing on the. Okay, okay. All the above. Oh, Jen. Oh. Well, hopefully being here and chatting will help you feel a little bit better. Go ahead and I'll keep talking about my teenage years, but you go ahead and put whatever you want down in there. We'll chat through the chat and through me. So I understand metal music, yeah. So that's what we did: ride bikes, play in the yard. When I got too cool for riding bikes and playing in the yard, then I started laying out in the sun. I would read books. I was a big bookworm, and I really liked being by myself mostly. There were 4 kids and mom and dad, and I just felt like I was like I was one of the parents. I wasn't the parent, but I was one of the parents, and I just enjoyed anything. The hysterectomy surgeon said that she's refusing to do it. What? That makes no sense to me. No sense. Are you under 40? Get a second opinion. Get a second opinion, Jen. That's crazy. Yeah. Definitely get a second opinion. I was 50. Was I 50? Yeah, I was 50 when I had my hysterectomy. I was having that I can't remember the name of it, but I was having some problems, and my doctor said, because there's other routes to try, and she said, do you want to just skip that stuff and go right to the hysterectomy? I said, yeah, let's just do it. And eventually I didn't qualify. Once they did the ultrasounds and stuff, I didn't qualify for the ablation anyway. Yeah, I don't understand a doctor's refusal to help someone. That makes absolutely no sense to me. That's ridiculous. It wouldn't matter what age I am. They have been telling me since I was 22 to have one, and now I finally agree she doesn't have the balls. I was 34 with no kids, and they did my hysterectomy. That's crazy. That is crazy. Get another opinion. Get another opinion. That's just crazy. Crazy. I mean, what kind of doctor is that? Refusing to help a patient. She doesn't want to do it, then she needs to refer you to someone who can. That is ridiculous. I'm so sorry that that's happened to you, Jen. Man. Talk about, you go for help and then they don't help you. I mean, how disheartening, or how it makes you lose all hope, right? It's no, that's not cool. We're talking about my teenage years, Jen, and just as an adult child of alcoholics, and we call ourselves adult children. We don't usually add the alcoholic part, but as an ACA, the things I went through in my teenage years, things I notice now that I thought was normal back then, stuff I thought was normal. So, excuse me. Yeah, I had my tubes tied at 40, and then at 50, I had the hysterectomy. Excuse me. So, yeah, that is crazy to me. If she doesn't want to do it, she should refer you to a surgeon who can help you. So, I mean, ridiculous. I have a cyst the size of a large grapefruit, and it has grown in the time I saw her to today, and she says it's a simple cyst that I am too high risk, even though there's like the 50th cyst I've had. My hysterectomy was done and I had a grapefruit size cyst. And they were able to remove it. It took the OBGYN did the surgeries, but it took 2 or 3 assistants to remove the uterus. I don't know if this is grossing you out, Metal Music. Let me know. She doesn't want to deal with my medical PTSD. She needs to refer you to someone who can deal with it. That's ridiculous. She just needs to refer you. Yeah, and like Metal Music said, there's hundreds of surgeons out there. Hundreds. So yeah, definitely get she hung up on you. Oh man. That's horrible. That is horrible. I am so sorry that you have to go through that. That is just horrible. So I have to now start all over with the risk of it bursting. Now, mine was huge. Do uterine fibroids, is that what it is? You said you have a grapefruit. Or is it the ovarian cyst? But if it's the thyroid, now I have PCOS. Okay. So you have the ovaries, the cyst on your polycystic ovarian syndrome. I am so sorry that your doctor. Yeah, Joe, that's what was causing me all the troubles in my with let's turn this. Mine weren't painful, they just caused me a lot of difficulty. Female issues. I'm still recovering from the allergy stuff, guys. So just 1 minute. Are you coming up here, buddy? Come show everybody how pretty you are. But I don't understand why she wouldn't refer you to a surgeon who could do the surgery and handle it and all the things. There he is. Okay. Show everybody how pretty you are and stop poking me. Say hello. It's Teal'c again. Kitty Cam. Kitty Cam. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Say hello, everybody. Hello, friends. Mm-hmm. Hello, friends. I love a cat purr. Don't you just love it when they purr and you can hear them in your ears? I love it. They say that that purrs at whatever frequency that relaxes humans. What is going on, Jen? The back surgeon also refused to see you, let alone do back surgery. What is going on? Hmm. Baby. That's crazy. It's amazing that you're able to be here and converse with us. Is a learned behavior. Is it really? I've heard that though about the frequency. It relaxes humans. He's a good purr. All my cats purr pretty well because they get all kinds of snuggles and huggies whenever they want. I just want everybody to see how pretty you are. You're about to get down if you don't stop messing with my face. I think you should scream, Jen, because you got to get that stuff out somehow because you're just getting, every time you turn around, it's like somebody's knocking you back down. Say hello. Hi, just say hi, Jen. I want you to be happy. So if you have to scream, you go ahead and scream. What are you doing, silly cat? Yeah. That is just unbelievable. Okay, I'm gonna pet him for a little bit more. He's what's it called? I'm losing my focus. So I can't remember where I was in my teenage years. So I'm gonna give you a trigger warning, or this is something I don't want you to be upset about because I'm not upset about it. But when I was a teenager and in high school, and I had all the freedom that I did because my parents were doing their own thing, I started drinking a lot. And my group of friends, we all were drinking, illegally, of course. I think my first party was like, I was probably a freshman. Yeah. Yeah. I was probably a freshman. And somehow friends were able to get alcohol. And so we drank. And then once I turned 16, I got a job. So I had money to put into the pot and get more alcohol. So I drank a lot, which also led me to be very promiscuous. I was, and in the 80s, I'm lucky that I didn't get any type of venereal disease or AIDS or anything like that. So I guess when I look back, I want to say a lot of the reasons, well, I drank my friends drank, my parents drank. I thought it was okay. We didn't do drugs, but we all drank. And then the promiscuity, I think, comes from the lack of social interactions with men. My dad, anybody in my family, didn't really have any of those. Not really. My dad was always working when he was home, and then when he wasn't drinking, he was just kind of like grumpy. And so what I wanted to say about that was, you know how they have the daddy daughter dances now? I think that is an excellent thing for young girls to have, and also the mother son dances. I think that is an excellent thing that they're doing. They're teaching kids how to be loved and not just looking for love. Like, so at the daddy daughter dances, or and then the father's daughters, the mother's sons, they're teaching their girls how they should be treated by boys and how they should treat boys. And then the mother's son is how boys should treat their mothers and how the boys should be treated, which I think is an excellent thing. And we didn't have that back in our day. I think that something like that would have helped immensely with a lot of the bad stuff I was into, because I was looking for affection and I didn't realize it. I was just drinking and I was, doing whatever I was doing at the party. And it wasn't any kind of group. We didn't do any of the groups. The stuff that kids do now at parties is not what we did. You might make out with somebody, you might hook up with somebody, but it wasn't like a group session thing, and none of that was going on back then, at least not where I was at. So yeah, I absolutely love that they do that now. And I love it when like moms take their boys on dates and dads take their girls on dates, because that's important. You're not born with that. You don't know how you should be treated. And like I said, my dad was never around, so I didn't know how I should be treated by guys. And my mom was just mentally unavailable, so I didn't know how to be treated by other women, actually. So, and like I said, I have one best friend from back then that is still my best friend today. And I'm lucky to have her, to be honest, because a lot of people don't have that one ride or die. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't have that. And it's sad to think of people not having that. But also, I'm real close with my family as well. But I have that one ride or die. And yeah, that friend you'd bury a body for, that's her. And so even through all my idiocy through teenage years and things, she stuck with me. She knows I'm crazy. She knows that I'm not quite right, and she knows how I was raised because she's the only one that was over, that saw how I was actually raised. And she's still with me, and that is a ride or die. Somebody who knows all your faults, all your positives, and still loves you. So, and I'm the same way with her. Anything she needs, if I can drop what I'm doing, I will go and help her. So yeah, I didn't get into any like physical, like I was lucky I didn't end up pregnant. I was lucky I didn't get any type of diseases. And we were just regular. We were not doing all this other weird stuff kids do now. We were just, regular kids being promiscuous, curious. And that is how I grew up being treated by boyfriends. And I didn't have a lot of boyfriends. Again, like my dad totally was like, no boys. My mom was like, whatever he says. And of course, even though they tell you that, you're still going to like boys. So that's why I think the daddy-daughter dances and the mother-son dances are important, because just to tell a kid no boyfriends doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. You need to educate them on how to be treated by boys and girls, you know? And that's my opinion on that. And then we already talked about last time, I don't think you should make kids hug people they don't want to hug. And I think that plays into this because I have a Nana. But it plays into that. You don't have to be friendly with people just because someone tells you to, you know. So I'm a big proponent on those things. I was always being told, do as I say, not as I do. Me too, Jen. And that didn't work. Because I did whatever I wanted to do. And like I said, I wasn't really, once I was a teenager, I got a used car. My dad got me a used car. He fixed it up when I was 16. So I could be the one picking up sisters, brothers, whatever, running errands and whatnot, which was not a big deal. Plus I had started working. But once I got that car, I don't understand why it keeps doing that. But yeah, so I didn't not as I do. I did whatever I wanted to do and I thought was okay. So I think us teaching little ones how they should be treated is a huge deal. Huge. Mm-hmm. And you guys know from when you were younger that do as I say, not as I do didn't turn out real well. So yeah. So I think just the lack of interaction with mom and dad on how things should be. And plus, they were raised in an era when that stuff didn't occur either. They were doing the best they could. So again, I'm not playing the blame game. I don't want to do that. I just want to enlighten you to signs that I see now that have caused problems with my social interactions. And until I started to get into therapy, difficulty in my life. Since I was the oldest and I felt like I was a parent as well, I took on a lot of stuff. I was more mature than I needed to be. And I was more concerned about things that I didn't need to be concerned about. So there is that. We were left unattended quite a bit. And our house had over the garage, there was a room, had a bar. That's where mom and dad would have parties. Just alcohol, smoking, and it was a bar. Nothing weird. And so when they were there, we were totally unattended. I got pulled over 4 days after I got my license. First hugging the white line. Luckily, the cop was nice and didn't do anything except yell at me. Not to it, but he missed a huge bust because my Buick Century truck was full with alcohol and pot. Oh, Jen! Yeah. The 80s, right? The 80s. Oh, man. Isn't that crazy? That is crazy. But it wasn't, I had some really good times. I loved the 80s. I really did. I loved it when I got my car because not only was I unattended, but I was able to leave the house. It was mid 90s. Got it. So you must be 10 years younger than me. I'm 55, so you must be in your 40s. And I was a smart kid. I just wasn't. And people say you don't want to push your kids because then they'll do. But I didn't really have any encouragement. Okay, so yeah. So you were a 90s child, which still was a good time. I loved the 90s as well. It was when we got into the 2000s. And of course, I drank periodically on and off through my adult years. We'll talk about that next week. But as a teenager, I was lucky. Again, like we would have stuff. I had zero encouragement and beyond board in a small town, right? So at school, my dad was all about work. He didn't graduate high school. My mom didn't graduate high school either. She did when she was in her 40s. She graduated high school through, how they have those GED programs like that. And so school wasn't very important. So I didn't get the whole, school's important. You need to go. You need to get good grades. Is your homework done? And like we were talking earlier, I don't think parents had to go to PTA meetings or those meetings they have now where they tell you how your kid's doing. I don't think they had to do that because I don't think my parents did that. And no encouragement into any certain area. And I don't think that that's pushing your kids. I think you're assisting them in what they may do in the future. You can't push them. because blah, blah, blah. And this is from someone who was not pushed at all when they were a child, but now they don't want to put their 2 cents in on their kids' life because they don't want to push them. Well, the encouragement is very important. It's very important because I did not reach my full potential ever. Once I finally became an electrician, I loved it. I loved it. I wish I had known I was so good at it, I would have started younger. Now, it would have been harder because when I was an electrician, there were very few women. But I kind of meandered through college. Like, I did some courses, basic courses for a year at community. And then not until the night, like, what was it? 90 something. It was in the 90s when I got a job at US Steel. And that's when I think it was 97. And that's when they paid for college. That's when I started to finish my degree. That's when I went in for electronics. I was really good. I loved electronics. They had electronics programs, so I enrolled as an apprentice in that. I don't think if I had just gone to one of the locals to become an electrician, that would have happened. It happened because I was in a big company, and I know people are like, I hate quotas. Quotas are horrible. Well, that's how I got to be an electrician. If there were no quotas or requirements, they would have said, I passed all the tests just as well as the guys. But in the end, they could have said, no, you don't qualify. But they had to because I did qualify. So anyways, where was I going with that? Encouragement. So there wasn't a lot of encouragement. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are you going to do in college? That kind of stuff. Let's help you with anything you're having difficulty at school with. Because again, neither of my parents graduated. So it wasn't school, it was work. So once I got a job, that's when I finally got a little bit of a pat on the back. So if you're a kid, you're always trying to get your parents' approval. And that didn't happen until I started working. So that just increased my want to work. And then school fell to the wayside. And I just worked more. Back then, in the 80s, I was able to work 40 hours a week. There were no permits. There were no laws. I was working full time and going to school full time. But let me tell you about that car again. It gave me a lot of freedom. It wasn't good freedom because I really didn't know a lot of things about just life in general. I skipped a lot of school. And what happened is in my junior year or sophomore year, we moved. So I got the car when I was a sophomore, because that's when I would have been 16. I was I was one of those people that went to school earlier. So I started when I was 4. And then I turned 5 just after school started, November. So we moved and I didn't like my new school, and all my friends were at my old school. So I would skip school and go visit. I would. And then I would skip school with my friends at the new school. I skipped a lot of school, but back then there was no calling the parents, where are your kids? There was none of that back then. There was no, I never got in trouble for skipping school. So, yeah, there was none of that back then. So I skipped a lot of school. So once work came in, and work was most important in my family, once that came in, then school kind of took to the wayside. I graduated still with B's, real good. And I also lost in my high school up to sophomore year, I was in the honor society. When I moved to the new school, I lost my honor society because it didn't get filled out or whatever. My parents didn't follow up, so I lost it, which made me like school less. So when I say I love the 80s, it wasn't really school. It was skipping school, going out with friends, hanging out, drinking, all the stuff I shouldn't be doing. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. So I think a lot of us can relate. I definitely wasn't perfect. And I would say I didn't start to get even better or more self aware until I started to have mental health issues and started going to therapy and stuff and to see what was going on and what had happened and why I acted a certain way. You know, and to this day, if I have something happen that really disturbs me and I can't work it out with my friends or family, I will call my therapist and we'll work through the problem and try to see because just, and this is in my adult life, I'll probably touch on it again, but I got really mad at a family member for not really any reason, but they canceled on me. I had 2 jobs plus school my senior year. Yeah, there was no limits, right, Jen? No limits. There was no work permits. There was no child labor laws or anything like that. Or if there were, they were not enforced even a little bit. So, and like I told you, in my family, work was more important than school because neither of my parents had graduated. So I did graduate. I at least kept that part up. I graduated with B's, A's, and B's. I wasn't like top anything in my class or anything like that. And I don't think my dad came to my graduation. I think when I graduated, it was my mom and my grandma. I think my dad was working or something. So he really wasn't around. So my relationships with men were very difficult because I didn't really know how to act. I didn't know how to be. And I was an oldest child, so I was very independent, standoffish. And I didn't know how to handle rejection, a breakup, which I wish I did because it hurt me a lot more than it should have at that age. It shouldn't have hurt me as much as it did. Several breakups, in high school, you date different people and things like that. So, let's see what time it is. Because I'm just talking and talking and talking. 2:23. So, um, let's see. What else? I already told you I was promiscuous. Sometimes I didn't have a boyfriend and I had, you know, encounters. Um, and I didn't think twice about it. I didn't know it was wrong. It didn't feel wrong. It was attention. Um, I thought how I was treated was how I was supposed to be treated. And again, I was independent, so I wasn't taking crap from too many people. But I was still sensitive teenager, and so anything someone said would hurt my feelings or things like that. And also this whole time that I'm independent, my sisters are at home and they're getting into their own trouble, you know, because they grew up the same way. Dad was never there. Mom was emotionally not really there. Um, and I don't know if I told you guys, she did actually, I shouldn't be saying mom. She entered therapy and she is doing so much better. I was so happy for her. She's doing so much better. Her vibe is more positive. And I'm so happy for her because she's going to have a better life because of it. So there is that. My dad has passed away several years ago. I was working at U.S. Steel. So it was maybe 2016, around in there. Um, and So to your two jobs, Jen, once I graduated high school, I pretty much was on my own. I wasn't encouraged to go to college or anything, so I worked. I'm going to try to rest. Have a great day. Have a great day, Jen. Get some rest. I hope you feel better. And remember, if you need to, go ahead and put anything you need in the group chat. So let's see. So yeah. So when I graduated, like I said, my dad wasn't there. He was working. And then once I finished high school, that best friend I've had for a long time, I moved in with her family. I just didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't. And they opened their home to me, and they were great people. They are great people. Her dad has since passed, but her mom is still here. I consider her my second mom. I stayed with them for several years until I got engaged and moved in with my husband. We got married in 91 and I graduated in 87. So I lived with them for about 3 years, 2 or 3 years, because we lived together before we got married. So, but we didn't move in together until after we were engaged. So, and that's just how it went. It wasn't like I'm waiting to move in with someone. It wasn't like that. It was money, actually. We both worked in fast food, Wendy's. So, so that's pretty much all my teenage years. And when I look back, I can see, like we said, hindsight, but none of the things I went through were too terrible at that time. I just see now how things are going now. I know people say, well, this is stupid because it wasn't like this when I was younger. I don't say that. I say that we're doing better now. We're learning more. We're doing better for our kids. We're doing better for our families. Even though it's not like it was back then. Yeah, we made it through. We lived through it, but we could have had a lot better. I could have had a lot better life if some of the things that are in place now were in place back then. I believe. So there it is, my teenage years. I started working when I was 16. I think I had a 2-week hiatus between jobs one time. And then that was pretty much it. The only other times I didn't work was when I had a surgery or like when I went to rehab. And then my last hiatus was with my knees, and I ended up on disability after that. So I worked and worked and worked. That's what was important in my household. So the do as I say, not as I do doesn't work. You do as they do, and they say some kids go in the opposite direction. Well, that didn't happen in my family. We all went the same direction. Do you guys have any questions or anything else you want to chat about? We still have time. We got half an hour. And anything you want to talk about that you went through when you were a kid? Are you relating to any of my ACA things? Do you think you might have been an ACA when you were growing up and just didn't realize it? Again, it's gaining. There are more people who identify as this, but still local meetings. There is no local meeting here in my city. And as a matter of fact, the closest, I think there may be 1 or 2 local meetings. Most of my meetings are on the internet. There's some good resources on the internet that I use, and I will talk about those more in future lives. But so next is going to be my teenage, like we'll do pre-therapy. Let's say that we'll do pre-therapy from my graduating to my pre-therapy days. Will be the next one. So, like, I can talk about myself all day, every day, if you want to hear it. This is my journey. This is the second part of the journey. And like I said, I'm not really, this one's not going out on Instagram. I'm just doing the StreamYard, and it's going on YouTube. And of course, I'm letting everybody know in the chat. But this is personal, and so I want to keep this between all the people that I'm close with. And that just makes me more comfortable. If somebody watches these eventually, and I'm not even labeling them ACA. Now, when I actually talk about just ACA and the what it is, how to get involved, if you think you need to be, and things like that, I will label that one because that'll be informative about ACA. That won't be personal about me. But that's why you don't see it everywhere. And it is what it is. I don't mind sharing. I really don't, but I don't want to invite any negativity. And so, there is that. So I guess if nobody's here, I can still keep talking. Let me tell you what I did for the weekend. So Saturday, I worked with my sister all day, and the weekend was hard. That's why I was so sore yesterday. Saturday, we were what were we doing? We were moving furniture, moving boxes. My nephew came and helped. So we were moving stuff, bringing stuff to the shop. And then Sunday, that's when I went to see my mom for Mother's Day. And I stayed the night with her. So we had brunch, Mother's Day lunch, actually at 12:30. I met him at the restaurant. My brothers and sisters were there. My nieces, and some, what else was I going to say? Nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters. And it was Mother's Day. The cool thing was when we went into the restaurant, they gave us little packets of seeds for Mother's Day. They say Happy Mother's Day on the front, and then the back it tells you what kind of flower it is. So that was cute. Super cute. Good food. I had some tequila soaked or tequila marinated chicken tacos. Delicious tacos. I didn't taste any tequila, but delicious. And so then I spent the day with her after that. Me and my brother and my sister, we were all at his house. She lives with my brother. They've got an apartment in the basement, a very nice apartment. Don't think it's just the basement. And so we were outside all day, and I didn't have my mask or my Claritin, and that's when the allergies started. I mean, we were out there for hours just talking and talking and talking for hours. We finally went in it was still daylight out, so maybe like 7, 8, something like that. So we were outside for like 6 hours, just staying out of the sun under the porches. They've got a front porch and a back porch, so we would move back and forth. And so it was a good day. I enjoyed myself. And then on Sunday, we went. My brother has a really big backyard that backs up to a little bunch of trees and stuff. It's not a forest. It's like a line of trees and brush and things like that, and weeds and stuff. So it's a little forest, but it's not, I mean, you can walk through it. It's only about like 5 feet wide. So there's a little gap where here's the trees and stuff. And so they have a lot of animals. And I got to see a roadrunner. I've never seen one before. It was the cutest thing. It was about this big. I would say we didn't get real close to her, but there was a mama and a daddy, and there was some eggs out there. And my mom had seen the eggs when she was mowing the lawn. She almost ran them over. So what we did was we went out there to find the eggs and mark them so nobody would mow them. And that was hard to do because the eggs looked just like they were in the, like, so he's got a big yard, so some has patches of dirt, and they were in the dirt, and the eggs are the same color as the dirt, and then the specks on the eggs look just like darker pieces of dirt. We were out there for a good hour looking for those eggs, because when we woke up, my mom's got binoculars. I got them for Christmas because she likes to look at all the animals and stuff out there. And so um she spotted her sitting on her nest, but we were a considerable way from it. So when we went out there, we were trying to find the eggs in that spot. um and the mama and the daddy, they of course left the nest. They didn't want us to find the nest, basically. And they do this kind of honking noise. So the roadrunner that honks on TV, they actually honk. So they're trying to get us to get away from the eggs. So they're all over the yard, just walk, and they run like this. They don't run like a bird. They run like they're walking on two legs. And like I said, they're only about yay big. They're not real big. Adorable, adorable. And I got to see them up close with the binoculars. And so they're honking, trying to get us to come away. And so we did. We totally got out of the. It took us forever to find the eggs because we didn't go where she was sitting. We kept wandering because it's a big yard. So once you get out there, you're like, well, maybe this was here and we didn't really see this. And so finally I said, okay, where was she sitting? This is where she was sitting this morning. So I went back there and I started to look around and I spotted them. But I have to tell you, it was really hard to see. They looked just like the dirt. Like I could have stepped on them. And I was like, I found the eggs. So we marked them. And then once we left, she went and sat back on the eggs. And so all is well. But it was fun, and we got to see the roadrunners. They were cute. We're pretty sure it was a mom and a dad. And then we saw the eggs. So that was fun on Sunday. No, Monday. Then I went to Costco. I stay the night and then I go to Costco the next day because she doesn't really like to go to Costco. So I stay the night and then I'll leave about 1, go to Costco, and I got gas, of course, because they're in Ann Arbor or Saline and I'm in Monroe. Costco, it's just 40 minutes, 50 minutes to get to any Costco from my house. So I just do that while I'm over there. I was in there for a couple hours, but I was on the scooter, so that was good. And then on the way home, I had to go to Hobby Lobby. I was in there for about an hour. And so that was Monday. So I didn't really rest on that day. And then Tuesday, I went to help my sister. That's when it all set in. Everything, all the allergies, all the aches and pains. It just all set in on me. And I was having such a hard time just functioning yesterday. So the allergies plus the pain. And like I said, I mean, how some of you guys are able to just function in life at that high level. I mean, I was in the 8s, 9s of pain, and you guys are in 10s. And just to function as a human being at that level of pain, I mean, it's a miracle. It's amazing that you can in your day-to-day do this. It's the worst I've been. I'd have to say it's the worst I've been since the surgery. Of course, surgery hurts, but I haven't been in this kind of pain since then. My pain's usually like a 6, 7. So I would say I was 8, 9, bordering on 10. Like I was dragging and I was like, I don't want to move. Neck, back, legs, shoulders, headache. Such a bad headache from the allergies. Feet just hurting. So that's when the Epsom salt bath came in. I've never taken one before, but I did, and I feel I feel back to my regular level of pain, like 6, 7. I feel back to that. So I'm not 100%. I'm not usually 100% anyways, but I can at least walk and think. I mean, because you already have the brain fog, then you have the allergies, which makes you even more foggy, and then the pain on top of that. It's again, I don't know how a lot of my friends in here that suffer the great pain all the time, every day, all day, how you do it. I applaud you that you can do it, because it was very difficult for me. It was very, very difficult. And then on top of all that, my husband called it an old lady bath because it had the Epsom salts in it. Yeah, there is that. So, went to bed early, slept late. Um, I don't know what else to say. I feel a lot better. Feel a lot better. And I'm still going to take it easy today. I'm going to take it easy. Tomorrow, we'll probably mow the lawn, maybe. I don't know if he's going to want to do it tonight, but he mows the lawn and then I trim if I can. If not, I'm going to spread that weed and feed stuff. I know it's late in the year, but it still works because I did it last year late and it still made the grass nice. Actually, the grass that I weeded and feeded last year looks nice this year, where the rest of our grass doesn't. And my dad never weeded and feeded anything. He just mowed the lawn. That was it. He didn't do all these treatments and make sure it was going. When you mowed it, it looked like a diagonal. He wasn't taught any of that stuff. He didn't teach us that stuff. So we didn't do any of that stuff. So it's very interesting just to see the generations, how the generations are different. And yeah, just how different people were brought up differently. And even at work, different people had, like, grass was important to some people, but not to others. You know, that kind of thing. So, yeah, let me know if you guys are here. Go on and drop a hi in the chat if you're still here, so I don't cut us off early. And so, yeah, just stuff I noticed from when I was a kid to now that are different. Not, and plus the signs of the ACA. Hi, Christina. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you're doing well today. We were talking about my teenage years going through as an ACA, and just things I got into because of no guidance, and not blaming anybody, just things were how they were, you know. And so I was a little bit, once I got a car and had all that independence, I was a little bit of a wild child. Not crazy wild, just a little bit wild. And I worked a lot. I was working up to 40 hours back in the 80s. They didn't have all the work permits and the laws and things they do now. So I was working full time, going to school. And since I had a car, I was skipping quite a bit of school, which, of course, did not help my future. But my dad was more proud of me having a job than of how well I was doing in school. So that was more important to me as well, because it was more important to him, and me getting a paycheck and things like that. So one thing I did not learn, one thing that my dad did not teach me, was how to budget and to save a penny, because he was a spender as well. So that was one thing that he wasn't taught, and he didn't teach us, and I didn't know. We're trying to teach our kids about it now. My granddaughter, my daughter, she's real good, my daughter, and then our nieces and nephews, and trying to teach them how to budget and things like that. But you know what you know, and what you don't know, you can't teach somebody. So yeah. So I'm better with money now that I'm older And so is my mom. But, you know, I'm 55. I've been bad with money for 40 years. So, yeah. So I would say I was in my 40s when I started to get better with it. But when I had more money, I just spent more. So, you know, I was working at US Steel. So the budgeting, we took a class, is what happened. We took a class on budgeting while I was working at US Steel. That's why I want to say, and we did so good for like 2 years and then we stopped budgeting. So I basically just go on a no spend to save money and then save up for whatever it is I want to spend it on. And then there's that. And we have an emergency fund. We try to keep an emergency fund. Let's see. So I don't know if you were here last week, Christina. So I'm going to just talk about ACA a little bit. Adult Child of Alcoholics. It's one of the 12-step programs. And I got a job as a bank. I learned a lot in my 40s. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. And then I think we were more open to learning in our I had finally grown up, you know, in my 40s. I was ready to learn. That's when I started thinking about retirement, you know. But if I had started investing in my retirement in my 20s, you know, in a 401k, we didn't have those back then though. We didn't have 401ks until, man, I had a 401k at US Steel. So it would have been in the 90s, but I had a pension as well. They didn't match the 401k. So anyway, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about budgeting and things. Yeah, I wasn't really good at it until I took the class and I learned a lot. And I know it's true our brains don't fully develop until 25 or 30. That makes a difference, right? Some of our brain functions are not up to 100% until then. Like I know we have a lot of impulses until we're in our late 20s, 25, yeah. Like you said, until 25 to 30. And so, yeah, that's the only thing that maybe I regret is not investing in my 401k earlier. I should have done it when I first started at US Steel. If I had done that, then I would have had more money when I went on disability. I get a pass for all things I did before. Yeah. Me too. Like I'm not sad about anything I did. I had a great childhood. At least I remember it as a great childhood. Just some things I'm looking back at and noticing, well, maybe now, hindsight, I'm seeing that these things probably happened because I was an ACA. And it wasn't a thing back then. We didn't know. We didn't call it that. It wasn't a thing. I don't think it came to fruition until I didn't learn about it until 2018. So I'm going to say 2010, 2000s maybe is when it became an actual 12-step program. And it wasn't widely, talked about. Now, were you into high school when you were in the 80s or 90s? Sorry. My allergies are really bad right now. I had a rough weekend, let me just say that, Christina. I was so sore yesterday. How are you doing? Like physically and emotionally, are you doing well these days? And it's good to see you here. I want to say, I think you were 79. That's close to the 80s. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I loved the 80s. There were things that we did that you couldn't get away with now. And there were not a lot of rules. But, I mean, I had friends. We did stuff we probably shouldn't have. Wore wild and crazy fluorescent clothes. There were a lot of rules now that were not there then. I'm still healing from surgery. Yup. You're over. I am too. But with surgery, you start to feel a little bit better. I know what you're talking about. You feel horrible. And then when you start to feel a little bit good, you're like, oh, I should be able to get up and do something or whatever. And then you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It's very misleading when you start to feel better because you felt so crappy from the surgery that when you start to feel a little bit better, you're like, oh, I'm fine now. I'm fine. But yeah, overdoing it. It's so hard to just kind of like, I can sit on the couch all the time, but when I don't feel good, I want to be doing, after a surgery, my last surgery was a knee surgery. I wanted to get up and move around and do stuff for some reason. Yes, after so much downtime, I agree. I think that's what it was. It was just so, I was just ready to get up and go. And then, of course, you pay for it. But such is life. Mm. Coffee, water. 252. So how are the puppies? I love pictures of your puppies. Are they doing okay with you having all this downtime? I'm right? You have the wiener dogs on Instagram. Am I wrong? I could be wrong, but I love a pretty wiener dog too. I'm a small dog person. My favorite breed is a Chihuahua. They're good. Put up several videos. I feel guilty not walking them. Oh, but it's hard. But yeah. But you still get some unconditional love while you're not being able to get up. Yes, they're adorable. I'm a small dog person. Um, but I love a Chihuahua. I had a Chihuahua and he was my baby, of course. Um, he was 15. He lived to be 15. And he was the love of my life. Yeah. Yeah. And so I miss him. But we have cats now. Maybe one day in the future. It's just that if you want the Chihuahua that I like the apple heads. They are pretty expensive. Yep. And we were looking for a puppy, which is, you're gonna pay quite a bit. That was my husband. He didn't want a senior dog because we adopted a senior dog, and he was only with us for a few years. And when he went down, it really hurt him. So if we get another dog, it's gonna have to be a puppy, and I want a Chihuahua, and we're not in that place right now. So we got Barry Sanders, the crazy kitten. But so I live vicariously through your photos and videos. Let's see. We got a few more minutes. So next week, we're going to talk about my 20s to 30s until I started to get into therapy before So I was in therapy for quite some time before I realized I was an adult child and where some of my issues stemmed from. And so everybody's not the same. Some people are like, I don't want to be classified by my diagnosis. And I totally get that. But I need to know my diagnosis because once I found out I was ACA and not really an alcoholic, I do use alcohol as a coping mechanism, which is horrible. I don't do that anymore. I did use alcohol as a coping mechanism. But I was not an alcoholic. And I didn't know the difference. I really didn't. So once I figured that out, a lot of my insecurities, my difficulties, they were known to me. Why that happened? Why am I feeling this way? What's, where does this stem from? I feel like I got better. And it's a 12-step program, so it's anonymous, even though it's not in the name. And it really helped me a lot. So I'm glad doctors are recognizing anxiety, panic attacks, and childhood trauma. Yes. Yes, it's important. It's important. Like, we didn't know back then, and so that was okay. But now that we know more, we can be even better. I don't think it makes us less than when we were younger. We're just going to be better now that we know things. Because back then we didn't know much of anything. There weren't a lot of rules. Like I said, I worked 40 hours a week. I'm sure I know plenty of people that had babies who smoked or drank. And now people won't even have coffee when they're pregnant, but people used to drink coffee all the time when they were pregnant. You know what I mean? The rules have changed. And I'm glad for that. I think it's making us better. I don't think it's making the time we had worse. I think it's just making us in this day better people. So that's my opinion. I don't blame my mom and dad for anything, because at that time they didn't know what we know now. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not my past. Exactly. And I can only get better. And that's my goal, just to get better. Is someone knocking on my door? I'm not going to answer it because I've got a few minutes left. It's probably somebody wanting to mow the lawn, so it's not a big deal because my husband's mowing the lawn. So, but I agree with you, Christina. Yeah, I'm not my past. Yep. The future is bright. We deal with what we have to deal with and we move on. Yep, somebody's knocking at the door. All right. It is 12:58, Christina, so I'm going to let you go. Anybody else who's here? It's been great talking to you. And I will see you next week. Have a great day, everybody. Bye. Who is this person?